It could be the rain on the roof, possibly.
Ah, it's raining. It's part of life. Alrighty. Hey everyone. There we are. Alec, we are live on LinkedIn. Hello everyone. We're also going live on Facebook again. So, Alec, how are we doing on Facebook?
Yeah, I think we're all good.
All right. Wow. Beautiful stuff. So, today we are talking about a topic that is very near and dear to my heart, Alec, and I'll try not to talk about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for the full 16 minutes, but it is definitely going to make an appearance. And that is, we are talking about how to get out of your own way and achieve the goals that we want to achieve. Because I was talking about this morning where many of us have made this declaration either to ourselves or to other people that we want to go out into the world and we have a goal. But along that way, to get to, achieving that goal, somehow, and this is what we're going to talk about today, is, the mindsets that are holding us back from, achieving those things. So that's the topic of conversation today. Alec, I hear you know a thing or two about this. So can you give us like an elevator pitch on like why this is such an important, topic for you?
The reason it's such an important topic for me is because I suffered a great deal as an athlete with anxiety around peak performance, and I was the definition of getting in your own way and being your own worst enemy. And so I tried everything. I read all the books, I did all the courses, I worked with sports psychologists for nearly a decade, and it ended up just making me feel helpless. And I found a way to get through that for me, and it was done in such a way that was so contradictory or so against everything that I'd been taught that I just feel this compulsion to share that with as many people as I can. So, yeah, in a nutshell, that's it.
That's a spicy way to start there, Alec. My goodness. Because, yeah, in a bit we're going to be talking about how, you are helping people in the sport realm. But, like we just mentioned before, hopping on this live, whether you're in sport, whether, you're in business or just in life in general, like if it's true in one state, it's most likely going to be true in the other one as well. So like many of these mindsets that people have in regards to, achieving their business goals, it's very much the same thing in sport. But I wanted to come back to what you just said there, which was that you spoke with sports psychologists for 10 years.
Yeah.
And then why was that not working? Like what were they sharing with you where was that disconnect?
I've come to believe that the reason that the sports psychology things don't work, and this is my personal experience, if they work for you, or if something works, then stick to it, like don't go away from it. So this is for anyone who has tried it and it feels like it doesn't work for them. The reason why I think it doesn't work is because it only gives you more to think about. And if we understand what peak performance and the flow state is, it's a state where you are unconscious, meaning you're not thinking, and so any attempt to think your way through or think your way into the flow state is the very thing preventing you from getting there. So yeah, the reason why I don't think it works is because it only gives you more to think about. Like you have to remember the technique that they gave you. You have to remember, the strategy or the tactic to do that. Whereas that's the very thing preventing you from being in that unconscious state.
Interesting.
Does that make sense?
So I would appreciate you to unpack that a bit because I agree 100%, but my level of knowledge is not at the point which I can completely communicate this. So can you talk a bit more about that? Because, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So if we look at what the flow state means, and often when athletes and peak performers talk about the flow state, it's in regards to the symptoms of the flow state, which you probably know as being time slows down and you lose your sense of self and you kind of like melt into your craft. And different athletes describe it different ways, and some people view it as like they're sitting above themselves watching and all those different things, but they're all sort of symptoms of the zone. And if we look at those symptoms and what that means, the reason that you lose track of time, either it slows down or it speeds up, the reason that you lose your sense of self is because the source of those things is your mind, is your conscious mind, is your thought. So your perception of time in terms of like clock time, I mean, is your conscious mind when you're aware of it. With the same thing with your sense of self. Every time that you think about the way that you are perceived and hoping you perform well and hoping you win and all those sort of things, that's all to do with your sense of self, which comes from your conscious mind. Whereas the flow state is when, if you are free of all of that, that means you are free of the conscious mind, right? And so as long as you have thought and belief and all those different things, then you're going to be in your conscious mind and not in the unconscious state. So it really comes down to understanding what the flow state actually is and then what prevents one from being in that state already.
All right. That leads me to a very easy
Mm-hmm.
question here, which is how? Because when you say like, don't think about the purple elephant in the room, my mind is instantly thinking about the purple elephant in the room. So now you're saying think less, don't think about it. What's stopping us from getting into the flow state here?
So it's looking at the root cause of why do you want to be in the flow state in the first place? Why do you want to perform at your best? It's the same reason, like, why do you want to be perceived a certain way? And it all comes back to, because you want to be perceived a certain way, because you want to win, because you want to perform well, that is all to do with the person that you believe yourself to be. And in terms of, if I say, like, if I am Alec Rasmussen and I want Alec to do well, then I need him to be perceived a certain way. I need him to perform well and I need to win. And that attachment to that outcome brings in all of the thoughts. And I think how to do it is to understand why you're not in that state all the time. You know, if the flow state is simply the unconscious state, why are we not in that state all of the time? And it comes back to, because we are thinking, because we get caught up in attachment and attachment to outcomes and our sense of self. And it's almost like dragging around a ball and chain. And this is different. The ball and chain is the conditioning and what's preventing one from being in the zone. And it's different slightly for each individual, but you're asking me, how do I get into the zone? I'm saying, if I came to you and said, Bronson, for your entire life, all the things that you want to achieve and all the things that you believe yourself to be, and trying to protect this person that you believe, that's like a ball and chain that you're dragging around. And if I can clearly and bluntly show you and present that to you and show you, this is the limitation that you have as an individual, you then have a choice, and it's a really clear choice. You can either spend the rest of your life dragging that ball and chain around, or you can do whatever it takes to free yourself of it. So it's not about, like, I can't give you a technique or a tactic or anything like that. But if I simply present to you your options of, like, you have this conditioning, like a ball and chain keeping you stuck, then do I really need to show you how to get rid of it? It's kind of like, do I really need to tell you how to get out of a burning building? Because you're just going to do whatever it takes to get there. And that's the thing, is if you can so clearly identify the problem. So clearly identify what is preventing you from peak performance and the flow state and everything around it, to the point where it feels like it is suffocating you and it feels like a burning building. Then you get to the level of desire necessary to simply do whatever it takes to free yourself of that. That was very long-winded, but does that make sense?
Yeah. I'm just wondering, we just met, no, we met at the right time, Alec, but, I'm thinking about way back when I used to compete in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and yeah, a lot of what you're saying is resonating with me, because I'm not going to talk about this for the whole time, everyone, but just a little bit. So I used to train a lot, like 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 times a week, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I used to compete a lot. And the actual skill of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu was something that I never lacked. It was very rare that someone would do something and I wouldn't understand what is actually happening. So from like a skill level, especially when competing, this is where my issue was. Like, yeah, very rarely did anyone ever do anything that I didn't know what was happening. But my performance in competition was completely different to my performance inside the training room. Like inside the training room, like I was a G, like I was fantastic, you know. But in competition, I just never performed, and it took me quite a few years to figure out why. Because I went down the sports psychology route. I tried to study the mind and all of this other stuff, but it was incredibly simple, and that's exactly what you just said. So what was happening was, well, the reason was I would show up to compete and I never actually tried my best because I wanted to have the excuse that if I did fail, I think I'm going off topic here, but if I did fail, I gave myself that out. And I was like, you know what? I failed because I didn't actually try. Instead of like having the courage to go out there and try my best, maybe win, maybe lose. But I was too afraid to look myself in the mirror and say, like, you actually just lost because you're not good enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It brings up a really interesting point, and I think it really speaks to the nature of the mind. And there's really three things to understand. It's like the nature of the mind is a desiring machine. So it's very natural that you want to win, you want to perform well. But then the second thing is, as long as there is desire, there is always the fear of not getting it. So there's always the fear of failure, there's always the fear of loss, and that sort of thing. And that's exactly what you were just speaking about. And then the third thing is, the fear is always far greater than the desire. And so, and everyone knows this in their life. Everyone's fear of failure or even fear of success or just fear and stress and anxiety in general is always far greater than the positive, desiring, wanting to win side, right? And so it then comes back to, if you understand that as the nature of the mind, then the difference between training and performance is that because all of a sudden you want to win, you're not just in training, you're now in a performance, your fear of failure has now become far greater because you have the desire to win. And it's kind of like I use the yin yang symbol as a perfect example, like that law of polarity. As long as you want to win, you're going to have the fear of failure. And if we understand that the nature of the mind is that fear is always going to be far greater than desire, then as long as you desire to win, you're going to have the fear of failure, and the fear of failure is going to be far greater than your desire to win. And that's why you feel pressure, and that's why you don't perform as well in competitions, because you have that fear, because you want to win. Does that explain it?
Yeah.
What do you think about
Makes sense. It reminds me of the last time I competed, Alec. And it was the last time I competed was in the middle of COVID. I know, great time to compete. And I'd never felt better than that day. I didn't win, because I hadn't been training for many years at this point. I took a long time off training, but just before COVID started, I signed up to a competition, and I was like, all right, I'm going to come back. I'm going to train. And then COVID happened, right? And I was like, all right, that's not happening. But so I forgot about training. I didn't do anything. People were isolating, but then we had a gap in the Netherlands where we could train and we could compete. And it was like the day before, and I was like, you know what? Let's just go. Why not, right? I haven't trained in like a year and a half. I don't know. And I just showed up, and I'd never felt better. It was hilarious. I mean, yeah, I got like destroyed,
Hmm.
100%, but by people who are, much better than me. But my mindset, man, I was like, okay, this is nice. I felt like a bit slow because I hadn't trained, but in general, I was like, all right,
Hmm.
is this what it feels like?
Yeah, and that's
It was
it's
interesting.
exactly the same as, yeah, like with when you're training, you're not trying to win. And I'm sure, I mean, do you think that's why you felt so good in your last competition? Because you didn't go in there thinking, I should be winning this match, or I really want to win this match. You kind of went in saying you almost had no desire to win. Do you think, like, is that fair to say that you probably didn't have the desire to win?
I had zero desire to win.
So if you don't have the desire to
I
win,
definitely
right?
had that, yeah.
Yeah, if you don't have that desire to win, then you don't have the other side, which is the fear of failure and the pressure. And yeah,
Sounds like a paradox.
why is that?
Because why else? Why else would you start doing like how do you say this? Why else would you join a competition if not to want to win?
Okay, why did you train? If you turn up to training and it's not to win, why do you still turn up to training? Why did you start pursuing jiu-jitsu in the first place?
Because it's my flow state.
Hmm. Yeah, and so
Yeah,
yeah, and so it comes back to when you yeah, I mean, everyone is going to say the same thing. Why else would you compete unless you want to win? And it's like you get to the point where if you don't have winning and losing, then what else are you pursuing? Well, you're pursuing mastery. And so that's where I would take it, in that if you no longer have the desire to win, you no longer have the fear of failure, but not because someone tells you to not want to win. It's because if you seek mastery, then there is no winning and losing. There is, did this work? Did this not work? What's the feedback? And everything becomes an experimentation for mastering your craft. And so winning and losing is no longer a desire and a fear. So that's kind of the level beyond that. Does that, does that make sense?
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. That is cool. I feel like I haven't actually thought about it like that before.
Yeah. It's
Yeah, I think the whole time I was just like, you know what, I'm just gonna go compete to win.
Mhm.
That was the point.
So that's what everyone does. Everyone, we're
Yeah,
so trained to like want to win and want to do well because that's when we get the praise from parents and a higher status amongst friends and all those, societal things. And so that's how we're conditioned to want to win. And it's the people who really become not just world number one, but absolute legends of the sport. Like you think about the Kobe Bryants and the Tiger Woods and the Serena Williams and things like that. Yes, they wanted to win, but you can't possibly say that all they wanted was to win. There was that level of pursuit of mastery that was there that took them beyond just the winning and losing. I mean, yeah, the level to get to that level above everyone else, where like Tiger Woods, I saw something the other day where the current world number one would have to be world number one from now until 2030 to tie Tiger Woods. Like, that's insane to be that far above anyone else. And I think that that level of obsession cannot just be for winning. It has to be for something deeper.
Yeah. We talk a lot about that in business as well.
Mm.
How, like, if you're trying to, it's not really trying to earn a specific dollar amount. Like, yes, that can be a goal, but people who are, at the top or have achieved greatness in business, they have been trying to do something that's far higher than, earn 100K per month
Mm.
kind of thing. It's like, how can we change the world? Sort of stuff.
Yeah,
Like Elon, whether we love him or hate him, his mission is to, go to a different planet.
yeah. It's a mission. It's not a
It's quite
goal.
a
Yeah,
big goal.
yeah.
Interesting.
It's yeah. I completely agree. It's a mission, not a goal, and I think that's again like something that I work on because I've worked with a couple entrepreneurs and executives as well as athletes, and yeah, it's the same thing as it's not about like what should I do to earn 100K a month. It's because that's just like a technique or a tactic. It's not a what is my mission that I want to achieve that I simply could not live without achieving. Like you think about Elon Musk, he said in interviews, I'm so glad you brought him up. He said in interviews that he he is going to colonize Mars or he is going to die trying. Right? And it's literally it's not about what do you want to achieve. It's like what is the thing that you could not end your life not having achieved? And that's a big difference.
Yeah, I like that. I feel like, yeah, for me, I've just been for the past couple of weeks. So I transitioned businesses. I used to have a content production business. I was helping people become confident on camera, like on the side, like it was just something that I do for makes me happy. This year, I'm combining both those two services together. And I've been quite, now that we're talking about it, quite thinking small, like tactics. This is what I need to do to achieve this outcome. But yeah, taking some time to like reflect and zoom out a bit and be like, hey, what is the actual big goal here?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think about it in the way that if if you're going to chase something, why not chase the thing that would end all other chases? So like, what is the one thing that if you achieved it, or the state of mind that you could get to, where you would never feel the need to chase or achieve ever again?
that's cool. Have you thought about this
Yeah, yeah, a
for
lot.
yourself in your own business?
Yeah.
Like, what are you working towards?
Well, I think I'm sort of there now in terms of the sort of thing like I could do this every day for the rest of my life. You know, all I think about, all I want to do is talk to high performers and help them break down all the conditioning that is preventing them from achieving what they truly desire most. You know, again, it's um, what I love exploring, like what is preventing the human being from achieving their ultimate capability. So yeah, being in meetings with clients and talking to you and talking about these sort of things, yeah, I could do this every day for the rest of my life. That's where I'm at now.
That's cool. That's the dream. Like, I remember many years working a 9 to 5, and yeah, there's so many people out there who want to get out. I wanted to get out for so many years.
Yeah,
I do feel like I am close to that place. I don't know if what I'm currently doing is, I haven't actually thought about it or digested it that much to be thinking about. I do know that I'm definitely on the right path, which is nice. So last year was all about content production, which I can do, but that's definitely not what I should be doing. Like, you're talking about helping high performers achieve their best and, all that. I am happiest when I'm doing this. I'm just having a conversation with someone and there's that little like, aha, that I go, oh, okay. Like, there we go. That is what was stopping me from, making content online. So whether this is the end goal, I don't know, but it makes me very, very fulfilled. I'll give you that much.
Yeah. No, yeah, that's what I try to, and it's not like I don't tell people to figure that out for themselves. It's more, I just point out that do you really want to live the rest of your life not having figured that out, and not getting, there's nothing wrong with, I know you said the word should, and, you should do this, and, there's no shoulds and should not. If people want to chase success and they want to chase money for the rest of their lives, then there's nothing wrong with that. It's not good or bad. It's just if you're the type of person who doesn't want to spend the rest of your life chasing a goal, then perhaps you should figure out the goal that if you got to that place, you would never have to chase again. That's, a different thing. And yeah, it's not really a question that many people ask. And yeah, and again, it's more it's more about figuring out who you are versus what you should do. Because, as you've said, like you're trying to figure out what you want to do most, and that's who you are. Whereas we're so conditioned to ask, what should I be doing? Who should I become? And when you ask those sort of questions, then people around you and society as a whole are going to give you those answers. And are you happy with someone else giving you the answer to the question who you should become and what you should do? Or should you turn your back on that and actually start asking yourself those questions? Because at the end of the day, you can either spend the rest of your life chasing the external validation from other people, or you can strip away all of the things that you feel that you should be and should do and get to a place where you truly understand that what you're doing is only for you. And, like I said, this is what I want to do every day for the rest of my life. And it's the same for me when I see someone have that breakthrough moment when it's like the weight has been lifted from their shoulders and, they sit upright a bit more and they talk more energetically and you see the weight just being lifted like that. There's no better feeling. And that's very, selfishly, there's no better feeling for me than that, than to see those insights and those aha moments. And so I'm content to be here for the rest of my life. And that's what I think if you don't want to spend the rest of your life chasing that sort of same state or that sort of same activity, is what we could, that's the alternative, if that makes sense.
It makes sense. Yeah. I'm thinking about how I lived, I probably lived 28. I don't know if you can count the first couple of years of your life, but until the age of like 28, I was definitely not living my own life for sure. I was definitely living the life of other people,
Mm.
building their businesses, living their lives, and being the person that I thought they wanted me to be. It's interesting, right?
Yeah,
Funny that, but
yeah,
thankfully, figured that out.
mm.
Right?
Yeah, and that's part of the
Interesting.
yeah, and that's part of the arrival is that, and that's why I say that's what I mean by figuring out who you are. Because so the example is like if I were to strip away Bronson and I was to say you are no longer this person that you believe yourself to be. You no longer have any of the I should do this, I should do that, I should become this. and you didn't want to be perceived in a certain way. You didn't want to, you didn't want to be perceived in a certain way. You didn't want to protect the person that you believe yourself to be, or boost your status as the person you believe yourself to be. If you stripped away all of that and you just pretended like you weren't who you believe yourself to be, what would you do and who would you be simply for you?
Yeah. My first thought is of what I'm doing now, so it could be worse than that.
There you go.
Yeah, it's been a good time. Do you still do sport?
Yeah, yeah, I still play hockey, yeah.
What kind of hockey?
Field hockey on the AstroTurf. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Wow. How do you find, because I was talking to my business therapist about this same question, because as coaches, you know, you specifically are helping people get from somewhere to somewhere else or helping them navigate through life in a certain way. How have you found that that process of, guiding other people has impacted you yourself in a way?
Uh, there's two sides to it. The first side, just to be completely honest, is that I feel more. Sometimes when I think that I'm somebody, I feel more pressure because it's like, oh, you work with athletes, you're a peak performance coach, like you should have all this figured out. You shouldn't be, uh, you know, you shouldn't get frustrated at mistakes or anything like that. And you actually end up having more pressure on yourself because you think you're somebody. But then there's the other side of like, gotten to the point where the more I sort of help others and I get through the truth of what prevents people from performing at their best and attaching so much to their character, the more that I am able to, when I step onto the field, stop trying to protect myself and be perceived in a certain way and really get to that place of mental freedom where I can just play. And it's not about winning and losing and performing and being perceived in a certain way, like, I should be good or I should do this or I should do that. And it's just that place of mental freedom where I can just play because I enjoy the sport. Does that answer your question?
That's good. Yeah, that answers my question. And likewise, I resonate with that. And so does my business therapist. If she's watching this video, which she does, it was interesting because, yeah, we said the same thing. Like when I teach other people how to speak on camera, they think that I'm not, like, I do come across as, it's a very complex topic, but I do come across as quite, my ability to speak on camera is definitely far beyond where it was many years ago. Like I couldn't even hold a camera 3 years ago, and now I can speak on one, so that's nice. But and the same feelings are still there. Like I can still feel all of the voices in my head when I record a video. I still sometimes do take multiple takes to film a video. Like I'm not immune to the same, and the same. It's nice though because the same advice that I give to other people, I start to like coach myself, and I'm like, all right, Bronson, like you've been here before. You just told someone else the answer last week, so do your breathing, take a break. Sometimes I look at a picture of a friend before I film a video. One specific friend, actually, he knows who he is. So it is nice that, yeah, it's a bit of a, what's the word, Yes, we have all the things, but then there's a bit of pressure on the other side. But at the end of the day, I think it's quite nice coaching ourselves.
Yeah, yeah. And I think it's all part. I think you're at a similar place to me, or have a similar approach to me, in that the reason why that you coach yourself and it helps when you coach other people is the same reason for me, is that it is simply an exploration into what works and what prevents people from doing the things that they know that they should. And the more that you coach people and explore that with clients, the more that you can coach yourself in that way. Do you agree?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I'm definitely listening to myself, and that's good. It's also nice that I do have a subtle, I guess you can say, I appreciate the pressure. There's a little bit of pressure there where it's like, hey, Bronson, you are teaching other people how to speak on camera. You should probably make some video content, right? Like there's a subtle little push there to be like, all right, instead of just telling people what to do, you should do what you do. So I like that. That's nice.
If it works for you, that's all that matters.
Yeah, it does. Should we talk about our inner child? That was something that also came up and I wrote it down.
Okay.
Do you talk about much about our inner child much, Alec?
Not particularly.
Oh,
Tell me
spicy.
about it.
Our inner child. The older I get, and of course, disclaimer, still, learning as we go along. The more it's interesting to say this about yourself, the wiser I get, the more I understand that it's less about learning more things, but it's more about unlearning things that I have picked up over the years.
Mm-hmm.
And much of what I'm doing, like becoming comfortable on camera, it's not about learning any like new technique, but really it's just letting go of all of that social conditioning that we've had over the years. And the more like my inner child I become, the easier it is to speak on camera or to do anything in life, really.
So when you say inner child, would you agree that or I'm kind of interpreting it as your inner child is who you fundamentally are after stripping away all of the societal conditioning that you've had for your entire life. Is that the same thing?
Yeah, it's a pretty good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's
So yeah, I think when you talk about inner child, I think that's exactly the same thing as what I'm doing, because I think we can all agree that children are certainly the most free people on the planet because they say whatever they want, they don't care. And the reason is because they haven't had the conditioning of they should act this way, they should be this way. And also they don't have the stress of trying to be perceived in a certain light. I think, is that sort of like where it comes from as well for you?
yeah, yeah. I think a lot about language learning, to be honest. And how people say that children are better at learning languages than
Mm.
adults. And disclaimer, I have no, what's the word? No studies to back this thing up. This is just what I'm thinking about sometimes. And I think that one of the reasons why children are just better at learning languages than adults is because they just do it. They just like they try and say words, and they actively practice a new language, and they don't worry about whether or not they're saying a word slightly different, slightly wrong, or their accent. They just say it. And then us as humans, like what prevented me from learning languages for so many years was just the same. Things are the same in every different element of life. Like it's just I was in my own head, and I was like, what if I say the word wrong, and then they judge me?
Yeah, and I think that's yeah, you hit the nail on the head. The reason, because it's not just languages, the reason that children are better at learning anything and picking up skills faster than adults, I don't think is more to do with bit like neurons in the brain and things like that, or our ability as adults to connect new neural pathways. I think it is more to do with the fact that kids, because they don't care how they are perceived, they don't care about making mistakes. It's not about failure and success. It's not about making mistakes. It is about learning the skills. And when it's about learning the skills, you fully immerse yourself in it. And as I said before, it becomes an experimentation of this works, this doesn't work, this is right, this is wrong, or right and wrong, but this works, this doesn't work. Whereas as adults, it is about failure and success. It is about making mistakes. And because it is about making mistakes, we have that fear of failure. And so we are less willing to fully immerse ourselves in it and just practice it over and over and over. And yeah, I think that's what gives kids the advantage. It's nothing, it, I think it may not be much to do with the brain as more of it is their freedom to fully immerse themselves in the thing that they are trying to learn, free of the am I doing this right? Am I being judged in a certain way for getting it wrong?
I agree. Of course. It's very interesting. I find the way in which children navigate through life incredibly interesting. I appreciate their freedom. It's nice to see. Do you talk a lot about mindfulness?
No, no. I talk about
Interesting.
mindlessness. Yeah.
Mindlessness.
So I mean,
Interesting.
if we're talking about peak performance and the flow state, and we all agree that it's an unconscious state, why would you want to be mindful? If if your mind it produces all of your anxieties and all of your stress and all of your negative thoughts and opinions on the world, why would you want to be full of that?
That's a good point, Michael. It reminds me of, I was talking about this with my partner the other day. The word mindset, it's kind of like, really? Like it is in the word that like it is set. It is not changing. You cannot change it. It is fixed. Like I have this mindset, even if it's positive or negative, quotation marks there. I think that the words that we use to describe ourselves are incredibly important, for sure.
Yeah, I think yeah, you achieve what you believe you can achieve, and you will become who you believe yourself to become, and not because you try to do so, but that's just yeah. And interesting your perception of the word mindset in that it is set rather than the mindset meaning like the state of your mind. So interesting, like perception of the word. I've never heard it like that before.
There are two sides to the coin, for sure. All right.
Mm.
Can you take me through a day in the life of someone who would work with you? Like, what does that look like?
As a one-to-one client, what does it look like to work with me?
Yeah, I got some things going, Alec. I'm not exactly, performing at my optimal. I'm trying to look around. I'm looking for someone to help me. I find you, Alec. What what does that process look like?
Um, there's no, it's not so much a process as it is just if a client is a one-on-one client, they just have full access to me whenever they need via any form of communication. We do have set, Zoom meetings or anything like that, but I try to be available whenever I can, before games, after games, because I think one of the most important things is to be available when the emotions come up, because that is often when we're at our most frustrated and when we're at our most uh, I guess, full of emotion is actually when we're most honest and sincere about trying to fix it and being able to explore it. And so working with me is, I'm not going to give you advice or a technique. It is just an exploration of who you are, like who you actually are, away from all of the conditioning, what you actually want to achieve. And it essentially boils down to the one question of what is preventing this human being from achieving their ultimate capability. Whether they're an athlete, an entrepreneur, an executive, it is just working through all of the conditioning, everything that holds them back. And like I said to you right at the start, presenting that ball and chain to them and saying, here is the sum of all of the things that are holding you back. Are you going to choose to let this hold you back for the rest of your life, or are you going to free yourself of it? And yeah, there's nothing to do. It's about everything's about understanding what you truly want. And there is something out there for everyone that they, the one thing where they are so obsessed with that one thing that they don't need motivation, they don't need discipline, they don't need any technique. They will simply do whatever it takes to get there. And so it's working that out. Does that sort of answer your question? Does that bring up any other question?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I understand, and it needs to be quite fluid. It's very dependent on who they are and their dreams and the different, things that are holding them back. I get that.
Yeah. And I know.
When you think of,
Mm,
yeah,
I was just going to say,
go ahead.
I want to. It sounds very woo woo and airy fairy and all that sort of stuff, and not having a 5-step plan sounds really strange, or like a 12-week program sounds really strange. But I guess I want to explain that the reason why, like, if you come to me and you say, Alec, I want to achieve ABC, whether that's solving a problem, whether that's achieving a tangible goal, it, I want to achieve ABC. And if I say, okay, well, do X, Y, and Z, and this is what everyone does, do X, Y, and Z. And then what are you going to do? You're going to go try to do X, Y, and Z. And then you'll come back to me and you say, oh, am I doing X, Y, and Z correctly? And I'll say, oh, no, like you need to tweak X a little bit, and Y you haven't got quite right. And Z, like you just need to get a bit more of a feel for it. And then you'll go off and you'll try it, and then you'll come back and you'll go around and round and round and round. And you try all these different things, and you get to the point, and this is the point where everyone is. You get to the point where the XYZ becomes the focus, the goal. You become fully immersed in, you know, am I doing enough reps? Am I spending enough hours working? Am I meditating for enough minutes? And that becomes the goal rather than the ABC that you started with in the first place. And I might give you an XYZ, and then after 6 months of working with me, you'll say, okay, it's not quite working. I'm going to go to a different coach or a different guru, and they'll give me a new XYZ, and that'll be the thing. That'll be the thing that works. And as long as you are chasing that XYZ, that advice, that technique, that tactic, you will always need that. You'll become dependent on that coach. You'll become dependent on that idea of some technique or some tactic is going to magically break open your life and help you achieve that result. Whereas, so that's the first thing, is to understand that the XYZ is not going to lead to the ABC, and it's actually turning around. And let's define the ABC so clearly and chip away all of the things that you think ABC should look like, and who you should be, and all those different things, and just get to the ABC that you are so obsessed with. And everyone I've worked with, when we get to this point, it's just like, oh, if I achieve that, I would never feel the need to chase again. That's the ABC. And when we get to there, it is simply, what is preventing me from being there right now? And the answer to that question is different for everyone else, but it normally ends up in some sort of conditioning of societal things of, I shouldn't do this, I shouldn't chase perfection, or I shouldn't, I should want to go to university instead of starting this business or going on this mission, and all those different things. So that's why I say I'm not going to give you advice or a technique or anything like that, because as long as I give you that XYZ, you're going to be dependent on that for the rest of your life. Yeah, hopefully that makes sense. But that's why I don't think the techniques and the tactics work.
Yeah, no, it makes complete sense. Yeah, I had two thoughts when you're talking there. One was, I definitely think that there are a couple of entrepreneurs in the space who everything is optimized and everything is tracked, and like yeah, I heard them talking about what that ring that you put on your finger. I forgot what it is, but it tracks your sleep. An aura ring, and there's something else about like uh, tracking your meditation or something. And I was just like, really, guys, do we have to optimize and track everything? Like, is that
Mm.
really the thing?
But because it sounds good.
That was my first one, and my
Yeah,
second.
it sounds good. It
It
sounds good
sounds.
because, you know, it sounds good to say, oh, but I'm continuously improving. Like, I'm tracking my sleep, I'm tracking how many hours I work, and it's like office talk of, I'm improving because I meditate for 20 minutes a day, and I think we're missing the point, right? As you just said, like we forget why we do the thing in the first place. Uh, is it not to get somewhere? Sorry, that I interrupted. What that was your second question.
Well, that was good. That was good. My second thing was I just wanted to say that I think it's really cool that our services. Like, there are some services and some jobs that people you want to work with people forever, and so it's time. It kind of gets weird, you know. You start to like try and hang on to clients, or they try and hang on to you. Which, if it's beneficial to both parties, sure, of course. But what I like about coaching is that like we're here to help and serve, and we're working towards a place in which people are free, I guess you can say. And then once they're free, it's nice. But like if we do our jobs right, we don't work together forever. I
Yeah,
do.
yeah. This is my biggest pet peeve with like the coaching industry is like everyone. There's so many people that want to do it just because it sounds like a good business model, and everyone's selling this idea that you only have to coach people for 2 hours a week, and then you can just sit on the beach for the rest of the time and earn like tens of thousands of dollars. If that's your goal as a coach, you should not be a coach. Like this is probably where I'm very different from most other coaches is like I anyone who comes in and works with me in the nicest way possible, I want to get rid of you as quickly as possible because I want you to in the shortest amount of time possible turn around and be like, I do not need a coach for the rest of my life. Like I am good, I know how to figure it out, I know exactly what I want, and I'm good. But that's what I want. I want people, I want my clients to turn around and be like, I never need you or never need any coach ever again. And I think like if that's not the goal, then what are you really doing?
I know, right? I agree. Preach to the choir here. I don't want to work with any of you ever. No, not forever.
I'd
Nice,
rather just
man.
see people come in, work out exactly what they want, know exactly how to get it, truly transform, like get to their place of mental freedom and peace where they never need to chase ever again, and then go off and succeed. Like I don't want to be here to chat. Like I want to be here to see you succeed. Like that's if we're going to talk about what's the point is I just want to see you succeed. That's all that matters. That's all that matters to me.
That is true. I think that's a great place to end there, Alec. How can people find you?
All the socials, all the normal places. My website is successlabinc.com. Um, yeah, you can find all my contact details there. I'm on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, all the places, all the things. Yeah.
All of the good ones. Nice. Wow, beautiful stuff. Wow, everyone, I'm going to chat with Alec for a little bit after this call. But yeah, thank you very much, Alec. That was insightful stuff. I got you on the call to have a free coaching session, and it worked. Congratulations, Bronson.
Thank you. No, I appreciate it, and thank
No,
you
I'm just
everyone
kidding.
who's watching this or listening. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, right. Right. Peace out, everyone. Mending the stream. Boom. That's one done. Everyone on Facebook, peace out.